It's been a season of two halves for Greg Seitz. A single win in the first 4 rounds suddenly turned into 5 straight wins after that. And yet, he's not out of the woods yet coming into the finale. Verity has a small chance to utilize his consistency to pull one over on his teammate. Who will prevail? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road Atlanta will make for a tough challenge here in the finale. Let's head to our track guide to learn more about it. Welcome to Road Atlanta, the scene of incredible sports car racing for decades and the home to the Petit Le Mans. This is a track that has proven itself to be worthy of attention on a world stage. With it being situated only an hour northeast of Atlanta, Georgia, the circuit is in a prime location. But despite its flagship race, in contrast to the real Le Mans, the full course is a measly 2.5 miles long. The club layouts also clock in at just under 2 miles. Packed within this small lap length is a series of technical and challenging corners, some of which can be race-ending even when small mistakes are made. Turn 1 is a fast sweeper which compresses the car into the track, but the high speeds mean that when you go off, you typically go off in a big way. Turn 3 is notorious for its curved entry into a blind apex. Too far inside and you face a cut course penalty. Too far outside and you're likely to spin out. Then there's the unassuming Turn 5. The wide curving lures you into getting greedy, but the close walls on either side gobble up cars and spit them out as a crumpled heap. With all the tricky fast turns, that's not to say that there aren't passing opportunities. The main one comes at the chicane at the bottom of the backstretch. The huge downhill drop into the turn makes outbraking yourself quite easy though, so be careful. The whole thing wraps up with the frightening final corner. With nothing but a giant wall right to the outside as cars fly through at high speed, it's not often that wrecks are small. Boasting a wide swath of series over its history, everything from NASCAR to Indy Lights and of course SimMSA, the main use of the track is SCCA events and driving schools. No wonder this place is popular both in real life and here on the iRacing service. Fans will no doubt get to enjoy many more years of action at this incredible track. Well, DJ, much like IMSA does every year, we're about to finish up the season here, but what is it going to be like with these little open wheelers instead of sports cars?
Well, Joe, a lot of the same problem areas are still going to present themselves, whether you're racing a tin top or whether you're racing an open wheeler. As we always talk about when we come to Road Atlanta, that turn 2-3 blind left-right complex is going to be incredibly tricky. But coming down through the S's and going into turn 6 in particular, because of the aerodynamic layout of these cars, the drivers are going to find those corners a hair easier. They're still going to have to get really nice and slow into turn 7. And the best overtaking opportunity is going to be down into the turn 10A and B complex. The one thing that these guys are going to be lucky about is hopefully they're not going to catch any lap traffic through the first sector of this lap. That can catch absolutely anybody out of place. But really and truly, this is all going to be a game of follow the leader until you get to that backstretch. Out of turn 7, that's where you've got to nail the power to be able to get into the draft and make the pass down into the chicanes.
I'm sure we'll see plenty of those, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Before that, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL Indy Pro 2000 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, looking at the championship situation here, up at the top, Greg Seitz leads by 15 points for the Pro Championship. Now, the simplest way to think about this here at the end is that Seitz only needs 8th position or better at the finish, and he will be champion no matter what his teammate Verity does or where he finishes. From there on down, you can see we got a nice little fight between Minino and Palacio to try and figure out who is going to finish in 3rd. And then Alex Guyon could have, of course, upset that as well, but he'll need them to have a bad result and him have a really good day to change his spot there at the end. DJ, what about the Amateur Championship? Because from what I saw, it looked like it's pretty tight.
It is very tight, Joe. As you can see there, Tyler Gore leads by the tiniest of margins, only 5 points, and Brian Hotham and Barry Cochran, they are both within single digits back to Gore. So if Gore has a bad race here today, that means that any one of those 3 drivers can top him. The same goes for Sean Duhamel. He's going to really have to look at picking up a win to be able to take the AM Championship, but he can certainly jump his way forward. So this is going to be a fight we are going to have to keep an eye on very, very closely, as these drivers tend to swap positions a lot during the race, and this title battle is going to be very, very close.
Of course, we also have the Teams Championship, and, well, as you'd expect, Rust Racing is up on the top with their drivers being 1-2, but it's not as far ahead as you would have expected. SRT Esport Blue pulling along. Menino and Palacio have been doing well, and some of that is due to the penalty points that Greg Seitz accrued earlier in the season. Otherwise, they'd be much farther ahead. From there on down, not really much of a fight between the rest of the teams. Blown Tranny Racing, Parabola Racing, and Lavoie Motorsports are all well separated from each other and not likely to switch around unless someone has just a catastrophic day. Actually, both drivers would need to have a catastrophic day to see some sort of exchange between those groups. For today's event, DJ, why don't you run us down the race details?
Well, Joe, considering how much talk we've said about the championship, you can be not surprised that it is the Season 1 finale here of this series. We are going to be running the Indy Pro 2000 cars, as we always are, in a 45-minute race. Drivers are currently out on track in a 15-minute open qualifying session, so all drivers are able to be on the circuit at the same time. This is an open setup league, so drivers are able to tweak and tune their cars to whatever's going to suit their needs. And at a place like Road Atlanta, that's going to become important because you're going to be looking at maybe a little bit of a compromised setup. Somebody may be running a little bit faster through that first sector and sacrifice some speed down the long straight, or vice versa. Now, dealing with incident points, you do get a drive-through penalty at 11 and disqualified at 12. Very easy to pick up some off-tracks here, specifically in that opening sector, so watch out for that to maybe play here. Also, bonus points on display today. That is for pole, fastest lap, and 3 incidents or less.
Well, right now the pole position bonus is going to Greg Seitz. He's up at the top, but by less than a tenth over Verity. And just as I say that, Seitz comes across the line and improves yet again to 0.3. That looks a little bit more like what we saw in the warm-up. Greg had half a second over his teammate at that time. This is Brett Accord, one of our drivers trying for the AM Championship. And Brett currently sitting in 14th. So we look at Frank Nguyen instead. This last lap, not going to be quicker than his 1:14.6, unfortunately, although it was pretty close, about 0.2 off. Frank back up the hill really gave you a sense there for a moment of how blind it is heading into 2 and 3. Colander, a little down the ways, actually second to last of those who has put in a lap, is not going to find time there. We're only waiting on Takeshi Kita to set a time, and he's not on track at the moment. He still has enough time that he could get one if need be, but he's going to have to hustle.
And there you see Sean Duhamel abandoning his lap. Here comes Barry Cochran coming across. He's currently sat back in 21st position. You see how wide they have to take it. But let's follow Stephen Verity here. This is Verity in second. He's going to be hoping to be able to beat his teammate. This line comes up on you very quick. That's not going to be a good lap for Verity, but as you can see, he doesn't have anybody around him to pull him along, so that's going to hurt him. Dave Menino also unable to improve there.
Looks like Alex Guyon went up 1 spot that time across. The 808 gets himself into P8. This is Adam Wright on screen in the meantime, heading down into turn 1. Seitz, I think, is on an out lap here. Yes, indeed, he was, as he just ducked it into the pits. So he's starting another flyer after he made that recent quickest lap of the qualifying session. Watching the 74 really take it through turns 2 and 3 and then back down into the valley. Now, one of the ones that we talk about a lot whenever we do broadcasts here is this one right here, turn 5, DJ.
Yeah, so it's one of the sort of mysteries of racing and the way that it does. What you really have to do to get it right is get on the brakes way earlier than you would think and then let the car coast through the majority of the corner. It's just the way that the track starts to break away from you. And then you want to take it very, very wide on the exit of it. There's a lot of exit curving there. You don't pick up an off track from doing so, and you want to maximize your momentum, get onto the throttle right at the apex, maybe even a little bit later, because it really opens the corner up.
Watching to see if anybody else improves. It looks like Guyana's on a streak. He improves yet again and is up to 4th. So the 808 car might actually be a bit of a concern for our top runners. Greg Seitz this time, another quickest lap, 3/100ths faster, and Frank Nguyen just went up into 2nd.
Well, and I am absolutely terrified if I'm anybody who's not named Greg Seitz. Seitz did that without a draft, as we watched Dave Peterson having a little off there. He did that without a draft coming off the backstretch. And the win was tucked up behind Seitz, so that really helped him. But Seitz just unassisted putting in a mega lap.
Neil Alexander actually having a fight for track position here in the qualifying. Not sure who that was that he was trying to overtake there. I'm honestly a bit surprised that anybody is improving because the temperatures have been going up since we came in just before the broadcast. It was about 69 Fahrenheit on the surface, and now it's up to 75 Fahrenheit, and that's because it is early in the morning, and it's only going to continue to rise. So I would think the fastest laps would have been the first ones in the session.
Well, Joe, I think it may have been a little bit of an issue of cold tires. You know, this is a track specifically when you're looking at lining up for a fast lap. You spend a lot of time going in a straight line. That doesn't heat up the tires as effectively as coming through the S's. So it may have just been an issue where it took a little bit of time for the temperatures to build up in the tires. And that 4 or 5 degrees advantage, it sounds so infinitesimal, but it can really make the difference.
Certainly seems to be the case. Menino, that time by, has just started his next flyer. And so J.R. Williams down in 8th. Same situation, it appears, as he starts on a flying lap. Now, for some reason, that's Greg Seitz, who we see glances of, stopped on the front stretch. I don't know why he's doing that. Thankfully, he's off the racing line, but it's usually considered poor form to just halt the car there, even though it doesn't really harm anybody here in the qualifying session.
Yeah, it's especially weird. Greg is a consummate professional, never one to play dirty, and let's just call that move, if it was done in maliciousness, pulling a Schumacher. But there you see Broomhead coming through. Now we're going to watch Greg's teammate Verity. He's not going to be able to do it and get any faster. But yeah, that it looks like Greg's been able to tow out of the way. So okay, no harm, no foul there.
Must have just been pulled away from his rig temporarily. Sometimes real life will do that to you here in sim racing. As Adam Wright, he's going to practice his pit in, so that's his qualifying session over. Menino will be up next, starting one last lap if he chooses to take it. He is going to. He goes on by. As he crosses the line, it's going to be a 15.359. That's not going to be an improvement. Let's see if he stays out this time. J.R. Williams, as the 8th place car crosses, also can't find any speed there. And what about Takeshi Kita? He's finally gotten a lap in, so all 26 cars are on the board. He goes faster. He goes up to 21st, in fact, with that last lap.
He'll be hoping to do a little bit better. Kita, always one of the ones that we talked about, never seems to qualify all that great, but his race pace is always impeccable, so he's one to watch during the race. Here we come watching Christopher Richards. I think he's just barely going to get another lap in if he wants it, but he is able to improve there. That's going to, I think, keep him in 14th, though.
All right, Guyon, who has been finding pace lap after lap, comes to set one final time. Will it be quicker than the 14.6? No, it will not. And up next, it's going to be Dave Menino once again in the 3. Through a little bit of cloud cover, that might help as well, cooling off parts of the track as he weaves through the final chicane back up over that very tall hill and then plunging back down through the final turn. These hot laps do count, but it won't be quicker for Dave, unfortunately.
Barely couldn't get it. Now Palacio is going to decide to come into the pits here. It looks like J.R. Williams is the next one. J.R. is going to be able to improve by about 9/100ths of a second. That's not going to improve his overall position. Here comes Nicholas Colander.
Colander, that one doesn't count. Must have had an off track somewhere along there. And he is going to be our last one across the line. Interesting stuff here. And should make for a fun finale on a track that is extremely difficult and a track that is continually heating up throughout the race itself. DJ, I'm honestly looking forward to this one, not just for that Pro Championship, but also, of course, for the AM Championship, which I will have to take a glance at where all those AM drivers wound up in regards to each other once we get to the qualifying here.
We most certainly will. There are few better places to watch open wheel cars, frankly, than on a sim at Road Atlanta. Every year you always hear about how IndyCar wants to come here, but unfortunately the confines of the barriers just don't make it exactly safe for open wheelers to come here in real life. And it's one of the advantages of the iRacing simulator is you're able to do things like this that would not be attainable in the real world, but we can just enjoy it here.
Absolutely. Well, our session has ticked over, so let's go through our starting order for today. It is going to be Greg Seitz on the pole with Frank Nguyen starting next to him. Frank's still looking for a victory this season. Stephen Verity, who is trying to challenge Greg for that championship, will start from third. Julio Palacio will be P4 and Alex Gaillon in fifth. David Menino will be P6 and Olivier Legault in 7th. Then it's J.R. Williams who starts in 8th. Inside of row 5 has Michael Broomhead in 9th and Dave Peterson in 10th.
Lining up in 11th is going to be Owen McLaughlin, followed by Don Bowden. Sean Duhamel will be lining up in 13th, followed by Christopher Richards in 14th. Brett Accord will be lining up behind him in row 8, followed by Adam Wright, our second place contender for that AM championship. Behind him, Neil J. Alexander and Aaron Roofs are going to make up row 9, and Tyler Gore, your AM points leader, is going to be starting off in 19th, so not the defense he wants, and lining up to the outside of him, Ryan Hotham.
Takeshi Kita jumped up to 21st in the end with Paul Wildridge in 22nd. It's Barry Cochran starting P23, Olson starting 24th, Barnett 25th, and Colander in 26th. Now again, our drivers vying for the championship in the AM class are Gore, Wright, Hotham, Cochran, and maybe Duhamel as a dark horse. And of those starters, Tyler Gore, who has the championship lead, is down in 19th. Now, he's not the highest one in that fight. I believe that goes to Duhamel, if I'm seeing correctly. Correct me if I am wrong here, DJ, but it looks like he does have the edge.
Yes, of the guys involved in that fight, it is. So Duhamel's going to have the advantage there, but I think he's really going to be trying to keep an eye on Adam Wright. That is his primary challenger. Wright only 5 points behind Gore, so he's going to be wanting to keep an eye on and watch that. Hotham, your third place driver, he's down in 20th. He's going to be lining up outside of Gore, so that's definitely going to be a little gamesmanship there in that row.
See them heading around on their pace lap. This could be a good chance to try and get some heat into those tires as well, since the drivers will have a chance to kind of weave back and forth, work the brakes if they so desire on the lead up to this 45-minute event. One thing we also have to mention is that pit entry and pit exits. I've often seen plenty of trouble. Do you think we'll see more of that today?
You know, Joe, these drivers in this series are some of the best Indy Pro drivers on the iRacing service, so I don't want to jinx any of them. They are all incredibly talented, but this is notoriously one of the trickiest pit-ins in the world. You're coming off of that big cresting hill like you talked about earlier in the broadcast. You've got to come down, get on the brakes, go through a chicane, even if you get it right, you can lose a bucket load of speed coming through there. And so if you're able to get it right and maybe gain a second, that could be the difference between multiple places on track.
No doubt about that. We've watched cars damage themselves plenty of times here on the sim, trying to come in and pit with a little too much speed on their hands. As the Porsche pace car takes them down the backstretch. Greg Seitz with those 6 wins so far this season. And Wynn is farther down in the points, but he did have a podium finish in round 3, so it's not unheard of for Frank to have a good run. Maybe he could finally get that win and deny both of the Rust Racing drivers. Through the final chicane now. Greg Seitz will have control momentarily, and it's a quick start after that pace car is in. Right up to the line. There you see the Porsche heading down the lane. Seitz does not wait. Green flag is out, and he is off, and already his teammate gets a great jump. He's going to pull the slipstream behind him. Verity does not try and chance it down into turn 1. Top 3 a single file, side by side, though, between Gaillon and Palacio. Everybody else looks pretty calm through that first corner, except for a wreck in the back. 2 cars going off in a big way. Everyone else hits turns 2 and 3, and it looks like Neil Alexander was one of those involved, along with Christopher Richards.
Heartbreak there, very easy to happen at turn 1, and very smart. You saw why Stephen Verity didn't want to go too wide through there. That is a very, very tricky corner to start off the lap, but behind them, Gaillon under massive pressure from Dave Menino, who tries to dive down the inside.
We also had an issue for Dave Peterson. Looked like he's our first victim for turn 5. So 3 cars very quickly out of this race. Although Christopher Richards is still trying to trundle around and get it back to the pits, but he's moving very, very slowly. Unfortunately for him, it was contact with Alexander that caused that incident. Into the final chicane for the first time in anger. Greg Seitz leads Verity, who sneaks up into second on that start. Frank Nguyen is behind him in third, having been demoted very early on, and Palacio rounds out your top 4. Then you get a bit of a break where it is extremely tight between Menino, Gaillon, and Broomhead.
And this was all really started off. Dave Menino threw an absolute lane-breaking maneuver down into the final chicane. Got it done around the outside. But now Alex Gaillon trying to fight back here, but that battle has allowed for Michael Broomhead to really catch up behind. So these cars running 1, 2, 3.
Through the valley and into the S's. They try and swing it through turn 5 as quick as they can. Menino looking very good off that corner and keeping Gaillon at bay. They spread apart briefly. Will they come back together with a slipstream down the backstretch? Let's watch and see.
And it looks like Menino may have just slightly missed the braking zone into there, but I think he's still got a pretty good of a gap ahead of him. His teammate, Julio Palacio, though, making look like he's going to make a move on Frank Nguyen down the backstretch.
This is for third place. There you see him side by side, and Nguyen's on the outside coming into the first apex. We watch from the chopper, braking much better into that corner. Palacio is going to take that apex away, and that'll move him onto the podium.
It's a good move from Palacio, but it scared me there for a minute. It looked like the left tires caught a little bit of the inside grass of that curb on the left-hander. He was able to gather it back under him, but you can see what that has done. The battling there combined with Dave Menino's just outright speed. He's caught right up to the back of Frank Nguyen.
Had another car that we lost last lap. It's Brian Hotham in turn 5. Don't need to go to a replay of it, but another self-spin, and unfortunately he found the wall. So 4 cars gone, and we're only 3 laps in. Already this Georgia track is just gobbling them up. As we watch our leaders, this is Seitz ahead of Verity. And I think Frank Nguyen is not done with his woes, because Menino is trying to look to the inside of turn 6, and now he's fully alongside him into 7.
Oh, that is an amazing move from Menino there. Turn 6 is not that heavy of a braking corner. You're really only down into about 3rd gear coming through there. And so being able to carry the momentum on the inside, really, really good stuff there. Frank Nguyen having a very tough couple of opening laps, just needs to gather everything back under him here.
Doesn't look all that aggressive. He's not been trying to cover off these passes that much. Maybe he's just trying to keep the car together until the end. It is a very difficult track to drive. as they come up and over the hill. They've only finished about 4 minutes of this race. Have things finally calmed down? No, it doesn't look like it, because I think Guyon has Broomhead right up on top. And there you can see him poking his nose to the inside through turn 1 and then thinks twice about it.
Yeah, I think that was just a little bit of a psychological move there from Broomhead, seeing if he can fake out Alex Guyon. But the Lavoie Motorsports driver, an absolute pro here in this Indy Pro 2000 series, knows not to bite on it. Now they swing here through turn 5. Looks like Broomhead may have gotten a little bit of a better speed coming in, but I think Guyon's going to be able to hold him off ever so slightly.
I think the backstretch might have something to say about that, though. Ooh, and he's much stronger on the brakes, maybe too strong, as he goes wide through turn 7, and he catches the dirt. Broomhead nearly goes off, and unfortunately it costs him a spot to the Legault. Let's watch the replay of this incident. And then after this, I think we should have an opportunity to check back on that incident at the start. Oh yeah, he just took it in way too hot there.
Yeah, he really did, and he was just trying to carry as much momentum as he could around the outside, and as a result, he just got those left side tires into the dirt, and that threw the car off a little bit.
Now we're going to glance at the contact between Alexander and Richards. This was through turn 1. There were already 3 wide back there. That may be part of what caused this. Yeah, trying to give each other space, and eventually they all came together, and that was a massive hit there from Alexander.
Yeah, it really, really was very, very tough. Those tires are a little bit cooler on that first lap. It's not surprising that everybody got back in together. But Joe, a quick update on our AM Championship standings. Brian Hotham, 3rd place in the championship. He is out of the race. Tyler Gore has been playing up and down the field here and still just sitting in 19th spot. But right ahead of him as well, right is behind him, so he's got that covered off. But Barry Cochran is ahead of Tyler Gore right now. Gore is about 2.5 seconds behind him in 19th.
I'm looking farther up, though. Duhamel's leading the AM drivers currently. He's in 11th place. Now, we said he was a long shot, but it's 14 points difference. I'll have to double check our points table to see where exactly that would put him. There's still, I think, a realistic shot that he could take this one away from 5th coming in. Verity took the fastest lap of the race. That'll be a bonus point to him if he can hold on to that. And as all this was happening, I think Julio Palacio also overtook Frank Nguyen, who's now down to 5th place. Or no, it was, excuse me, it was Menado that overtook Palacio. That was for a battle for 3rd.
Yeah, Dave Menado is just driving the wheels off of that SRT machine here today, doing a really, really good job there. You can see him perfect taking it in. Proved me a little bit wrong, taking that corner there in 4th gear. Now gets it on, little bit of oversteer. Oh, nice catch for Dave Menado.
And still doesn't lose the spot either. He's only on a single win so far this season, but he sits 3rd in the points, trying to keep Palacio behind him. It's another teammate battle for an important position. Palacio's got a great run. Does he look to the inside? Looks like they're going to play the team game just a little bit longer at least.
Yeah, you don't want to go too aggressive with your teammate. These guys are going to have to be thinking about the team's championship, as we talked about at the top. Although right now with the Rust Racing boys up front, there is no beating them.
Yeah, not in that team's championship, that's for sure. Greg Seitz takes the fastest lap right back, in fact, by 0.3 of a second over Verity. So Seitz responds in a big way. Here we see in the graphic on the screen, this is the battle for 3rd place with Nguyen still tucked up behind and ready to snatch it up, along with Alex Guyon closing on them.
Yeah, Alex is having a good run here. He obviously fell back a little bit from the start. He is down 1 position from his 5th place starting position, but he is being able to keep behind Frank Nguyen relatively well.
They come on to the back stretch. He's going to hope to pull a toe from Frank. Let's see what this will do when he starts at about 0.6 of a second behind. Frank himself was almost a full second behind Palacio. as they pick up speed up to about 155 miles an hour. Guyon gains about a tenth or two, so it's worth something. If he can keep chipping those away, that'll certainly do him good. Behind them, we got a swap for positions. McLaughlin and Williams, that was for 9th place. Let's take a look at how this one happened.
So there you go. That is just that draft that we've seen working for J.R. Williams. He dives out to the inside of this first corner. Later on the brakes than McLaughlin, able to get the car nice wound up under him and back onto the power. A textbook maneuver.
Oh, Nick Colander seems to have had an issue. He's off track. This is down into the chicane. Oh, he had help. I think he got a big hit from somebody here. Barnett, I believe. Yeah, that's Barnett behind him in the red and black machine. Just outbrakes himself, and unfortunately there's no place for him to go but into the back of Colander.
Yeah, it looks like Barnett just had those front tires locked up on him, couldn't slow the car down well enough, was a little bit boxed in there as they were going too wide in front of him as well.
Got a side-by-side battle between Broomhead and Legault. This is for 7th. Coming down the backstretch, that's Broomhead to the inside. And in fact, he's going to chop in front now that he's fully clear of Olivier. So up to P7 for the double aught. But again, we've seen these fights continue onto the front stretch at times, depending on what Olivier wants to do with this. Doesn't quite have the over-under we typically see, but we'll hop on board and see what this looks like from his perspective.
All right, Joe, and here you can see it. Oh, he's having to fight that car a little bit. The aero wash starting to affect through that fast corner now. You can see just how blind that turn 2-3 complex is. Down to second gear, getting it back on. You come up through the S's. The increased downforce in this car means that you can take the S's absolutely flat out. Here's that tricky turn 5. Break the car, let it coast, bring it down in the gears. Ooh, Olivier not taking the lightest line there, so blunting off a little bit of his momentum as now they line up for the 6-7 complex.
Not feeling as confident, maybe, compared to the likes of Michael Broomhead. And that'll give him a nice little gap here onto the backstretch, which could wind up being important. As we've seen, that slipstream certainly allows some chances to try and attack, and he wants to hold the driver back that he just overtook. Behind them, it does look like McLaughlin's trying to come back at Williams. Just watch them swap positions recently, too. You see them from the chopper as well.
Yeah, that draft helped him certainly out on that last lap. He's been able to put the gap down to about 0.5 of a second. Certainly helped through that. And right up ahead of them, that is the other guys that we've been following. That is Olivier Legault right ahead. So that may be interesting to see if Legault starts fighting with Williams. McLaughlin's going to smell an opportunity.
Certainly. Looks like Olivier's on a bit of the back foot now. He's already been overtaken by Michael. And Williams is quick approaching up and over through turn 5. A lot of curb there for Williams, but he doesn't seem to mind it too much as he holds it together. And then we hit the backstretch here after turn 7. Who's going to get the better launch? All of them trying to line it up and put the power down as soon as they dare. I'd say McLaughlin looks like he has the best. He is right up underneath the rear wing of the 213.
Yeah, here he comes on an absolute charge here. He's still going to lead a little bit of gutsy late braking, I think, to be able to get this over J.R. Williams. He may be a little far back. Yep, he's just going to tuck it right in behind, not make the aggressive move here. Good choice for Owen McLaughlin. It's a long race here.
And Owen is currently sitting in the 10th spot. Oh, that was a great run off the final corner for Legault. There you can see him taking a peek to the inside of turn 1. Not a serious one, though. Broomhead still is able to take that apex. And the double aught holds on to that 7th position. Doesn't put him far enough away from J.R. Williams that he can stop being nervous about what's in that mirror, though. All 4 of them basically race in a line here on lap 11, getting close to the pit window as well.
Exactly, and we've seen some alternating strategy in this series come to play, but very often doing the undercut, as we traditionally think of it, not always the best decision. It seems to favor the drivers who are able to save a couple of tenths of a gallon here and there and maybe build a full laps worth of extra fuel. Well, on a road course like this is a lot harder, but with a massive draft down this backstretch, it is certainly possible to save a good amount.
Here comes Legault again. He is going to try another look. Defensive move from Broomhead, and they both come back to the racing line. Interesting stuff. Up ahead of them, did Guyon have a problem, or are they just gaining on Guyon here? Let me double check the lap times here as they cross. Seitz just took the fastest lap of them. Guyon with a 1:16 flat that time through compared to the time of Broomhead, which was a 15:4. Yeah, that was a big gain that lap on the 808.
I think there was just a little bit of a bobble there from Alex Guyon. Very, very out of character for him. We normally don't see him making mistakes like that.
Well, this is not good news for him. Could wind up as 808s and heartbreaks, unfortunately, for Guyon, as Michael Broomhead gets bigger in his mirrors, coming onto the backstretch once again. Last time we saw a move from both Olivier and Michael. Ooh, this time, though, that was a big wiggle coming off of Olivier.
Yeah, big one. That car looking very unhappy coming over the curbs, and you can see here comes J.R. Williams ready to pounce.
Does he stay defensive? No, he's going to come back to the racing line. Oh, and then Legault almost looks like he wants to move over, but it's too late. Williams tries to take the inside away, shakes him off as Legault heads completely into the grass, manages to keep from spinning or wrecking the car, but he loses 2 positions with that error.
Just a little bit of that wiggle. The car just looked like it wasn't exactly completely under him when he tried to put the power back on in that car. That caused that little shake.
Back up at the front, Seitz is still leading Verity. He's doing exactly what he needs to do to wrap up this championship. But credit to Verity, who's still winless so far this season. He's got him within half a second. If we get a mistake from the 74, that could mean we could see Steven finally on the top step of the podium.
Exactly, and we've seen from a lot of these really good drivers, it's very easy to make a mistake here, and I have to think Verity is just biding his time. He may be waiting until after pit stops to see if there is a move he can really make. Doesn't want to force himself to push too hard. Ooh, massive closing speed there as they Constantina up through 10.
Legault, now I'm doing it, might have overtaken McLaughlin. Yes, he has. So quickly recovers from his mistake, and he gets himself back into 9th. Not sure if that was from McLaughlin making his own oopsie, or if, yeah, I think it was actually. Yeah, let's take a replay. This came off of turn 7 that this happened. Coming onto the backstretch, Owen, yeah, he just went way wide. You could see how slow that made that gold-colored car.
It's a very easy thing to do there through turn 7, Joe. That corner, you want to sort of naturally, your instinct as a driver is to get on the power super early in that right-hander. But the truth of the matter is that it's a slightly off-camber corner, and so you need to wait a second to be able to get onto full power down the straightaway. If you get on the power too early, it causes the car to understeer, and you push out wide, and you've got to back off halfway through your turn-out sequence, and that really causes you to lose massive amounts of time, and that's exactly what happened to him here.
Had a spin, and I think maybe a hit from Paul Wildridge. That AM driver is now in pit lane. Don't need to go there, though. And I was just trying to check in on our AM championship, how it's doing. Duhamel actually got overtaken by Brett Accord. So Sean now down to 12th. But is still our highest runner in that class. That will be important, though, because remember, he wants as many points as possible to try and take this championship. The good news for him is that he's got his teammate Bowden behind him.
He does indeed, and I'm about to terrify all of our viewers here on GSRC by saying I've done a little bit of math during the course of the broadcast, keeping an eye on where Tyler Gore is. He is currently in 17th right now, and based off of his finishing position, if he stays where he is, even if Duhamel was able to take that top place, Gore will still maintain the AM championship lead.
So he can't have anything happen. Oh, and he's going to get another point potentially, because I think Takeshi Kita just spun and turned 3. Looks like no, Gore's not going to catch him in time. Kita's rolling again. So the 30 back on track and moving. So we watch Duhamel and his teammate head down the back stretch. I would hope that Don is aware of the situation with the points. He's not in that fight, so doesn't really need to do anything with it. Is down into the final chicane. Williams now gets by Broomhead. This is a charging 213 who has gone from what? We saw him in 10th place a little bit earlier, now all the way up to P7.
Most certainly very late on the brakes there, but Michael Broomhead looks like he's got a little bit left in the tank, keeping it very close as they go up through turn 1. But that aero wash forcing him to back off ever so slightly. You see the wider line there from J.R. Williams trying to maximize speed through that blind turn 2-3 complex. He's going to pull a little bit of a gap on Broomhead here up to about 0.6 of a second.
Interestingly, we don't have a whole lot of hard chargers, especially in this part of the field. I mentioned Williams moving forward. Well, he actually started in 8th, so he's up 1 spot from where he began this race. He must have fallen back in the early laps. Really, the driver who's gained some of the most positions is, I think, Barry Cochran, going from 23rd to 16th. So a gain of 7 spots.
Yeah, Cochran's having a really, really good run here, and some of that is due to the attrition that we've had, but he has just put in a very clean and consistent race up to this point.
You see Barry now on the back stretch himself, having managed to overtake Tyler Gore and all of this. The driver that he's trying to beat to the championship, but not looking likely if Gore finishes exactly behind him like that. So he's got to either overtake a few more cars or hope that there's some problems for the number 7 if he wants to claim that crown. Still haven't seen any scheduled stops up to this point, but we're getting close to the halfway mark, and often we'll see drivers who attempt that. Well, speak of the devil, Takeshi Kita is listening to me because he just came in.
He did indeed, and so this is right before that halfway point. This is going to be going for the overcut, or the undercut here for Takeshi Kita. Stops in the box. He does decide to take tires. You see him coming down off of the jacks there. 7.2 stop for Takeshi, and he is on his way.
All right, so the call is for tires for Takeshi. Will others follow suit? Temperatures have continued to rise, by the way. We're now at almost 11 a.m. virtual standard time, and it's almost 80 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. Pretty much more than a full 10 degrees hotter than when they were practicing earlier on. So who has taken that into account?
Well, we've heard many times Seitz and Verity talking about as teammates the changes that they make based off of what they think the weather conditions are doing. And so it's very interesting to see some of these drivers starting to come alive a little bit more. One of them on your screen right here, Michael Broomhead.
And Broomhead is chasing down Williams after losing that one. They are dead on each other that last lap, but up in front of them, that is the lapped car of Neil Alexander. They're catching him at a very difficult place to overtake. Hopefully things should clear up from here on out as they come to the latter half of the lap. Oh, but he's not hopping out of the way very quickly. He's not obligated to, he just cannot intentionally block them. There he finally lets them go. Nicely done. This could mean Broomhead's got a really good chance, though, because he's right within the slipstream.
Yeah, he's really going to be charging here. He was able to take that corner almost exactly how he wanted to. JR very, very compromised. Now here comes Broomhead. Sticks his nose to the inside of the corner here. They're both down hard on the brakes. Can Michael hold it? Yes, he's got it over JR for now.
Oh, and JR, well, I was going to say he doesn't get a good exit. Instead, it's Broomhead who has the worst exit of the two. They come onto the front stretch, and he's going to duck to the inside of him. Broomhead tries to defend, and he's already there. He gives him space, too wide down into turn 1, and J.R. Williams gets it right back.
Nice job on how to fight back. Ooh, Broomhead thinking about trying to make a move there going into turn 2-3, but he's not going to do anything here. Now he's just got to keep on the same plan of attack that he's had. Keeps the power down full. Ooh, JR gets a very weird run through the S's.
Keeps it together, and behind them, Olivier Legault, who we saw off track at one point, is now back into things. We've had a few more takers on pit lane. Roos, Cochran, and Gore all taking service.
All right, but we're going to keep our eyes right up here. This is the battle that we are concerned about. Oh, Oh, twitchy exit there from Michael Broomhead. And look at that, Joe, who's closed in behind him. That is the Olivier Legault.
Back in it again. The 88 now is able to pull a slipstream. What kind of moves will we see? Look at them weaving back and forth, trying to stay in that draft of J.R. Williams, and then braking hard for the final chicane. Nobody able to make any sort of moves for an overtake there. It heads back onto the front stretch just with about 21 minutes to go.
And there you see it. That is Olivier Legault coming into the pits. Also in the pits, your leader, Greg Seitz, as well as Dave Menino, Julio Palacio, and Frank Nguyen.
Red Accord also coming in, so a number of higher position drivers electing to take their stops. Seitz is in and out without any dramas. I didn't see if he took tires. Let me double check on that.
I just saw it. He did take tires.
Okay. So the 74 electing that it is worth getting some fresh rubber. Palacio now exiting. Seitz returns in the 6th position, but crucially, he is in clear air. There's nobody around.
Now that's going to help him through the first part of the lap, but depending on what is able to happen here, although I am looking at Stephen Verity, Verity is now running solo as well. That's his biggest contender for this race. Now for Verity, he is going to have to make the decision. If he doesn't take tires, this could put him in a window, and Verity is indeed coming into the pits.
Responds to his teammate, heads down to the lane, and hits the cones. Do the other drivers behind him also pit in? That is Tyler Gore in front of him, also pitting a lap down. Colander pits behind them. He's also a lap down. Guyon, who is on the lead lap, he is in. So is Williams and Broomhead. Where is Seitz? Seitz is just coming off the final corner now. Verity's in his stall. I think Seitz is going to get him easily, but he doesn't take tires. Interesting. And this might make him able to jump his teammate. He's coming out almost side by side. This is going to be a battle into turn 3. No, he just misses it.
Oh, so close there for Verity. We're going to ride on board with him here as they charge down through the S's. Now, Verity's tires are going to be what we would call scrubbed at this point, so they're going to be closer up to full temperature. He now just has to stay very close behind Greg Seitz and try to make a move down the backstretch.
Still, I wonder, though, it's the worst of both worlds for Steven. He not only doesn't have the track position, but he's got older tires on compared to a teammate that is shown to be slightly quicker over the course of today. I think this is going to be a very difficult hill to climb.
I think you're right, Joe. And coming out of turn 7, that is Case.
Sorry, J.R. Williams. J.R. Williams just had a big moment, and he is out of the race. One of our drivers vying for a top 10 has thrown it away out of turn 5. And I think this was a case of those curbs. These are very low-slung cars, DJ. I think he just bottomed out from what I can tell. Let's see.
Right there, you see him working his way down through the S's right now. We watch him here, gets it through that nice and easy. Yep, that's exactly what happened. You can see that little skip in the back as the rear of the car bottomed out, lost complete traction with the tires, sending him right into the retaining wall.
That's honestly one of the things I always hated about that corner, is if you just hit that curb wrong. Meanwhile, well, I thought Verity would have more trouble than this. Apparently those scrub tires are actually working somewhat decently. He's gotten closer since he exited pit lane. He's down to 0.3 of a second. That is a lapped car behind them. Not poor position. Just Neil Alexander watching as they move along.
Yeah, and so here he goes. Now, I was a little concerned about Verity on that last lap. It looked like he missed the apex coming through turn 7, but he actually got a better run through the corner than his teammate Seitz did ahead. But here he comes, charging down the hill. He's going to be a little far back, I think, to do it, but Seitz still moves a little bit defensively to try to cut him off. Verity taking a very aggressive line through those chicanes, though.
Back down the hill once again. Verity making sure that Greg, if he wants 6 wins in a row, he's going to have to work for him. Look at how wide, though, Greg takes it coming into the first corner using that little access road on the outside pits just to give him that little bit more speed. And that worked because it stretches to 0.4 away from Stephen Verity just in that little exchange.
Yeah, Joe, it's sort of one of the secrets of Road Atlanta is you are able to abuse that little access road that comes out there. When you set up for the corner, the grass cuts away, and in a millisecond, you have a little bit more asphalt around the outside. It's almost like you're driving a dirt car in the way you sort of have to flick the car to the left and then immediately get it back to the right. And Sykes doing it there perfect.
Right on board. It's now gone up to 0.6 of a second as Sykes found his tires up to temperature. Is he picking up the pace here? They come down the hill. Let's see what it's going to be across the line this time between the pair of them. Is it a case of Greg going quicker or Verity going slower? Both of them successfully out of the chicane and down through the final turn. Sykes crosses the line, and his is going to be a 1:15 flat. That's definitely quicker than the previous one. Meanwhile, it is a 15.2 for Verity, 0.2 slower for the 04.
Yeah, and this is where, if Sykes can keep pressing this advantage, he'll be able to break the draft a little bit of Stephen Verity, and that will be disaster for him. But for Greg Sykes, we have seen this track catch out many, many drivers. He has just got to focus on what's ahead of him.
All drivers have now pitted at this point with 15 minutes left to go. If anybody wants position on track, they've got to try and make an overtake, and not with strategy. As they come around turn 7, the Rust Racing drivers have been controlling this entire event. Dave Menado a full 4.5 seconds behind, though he is running on the podium currently. As for that AM Championship, Tyler Gore actually sits down in 18th right now. Did he lose a few positions, or is that where he was before when we last talked about him?
He lost a position over the course of the pit cycle, Joe. But most importantly, with that AM Championship, it's not a cumulative thing where it depends on how you finish in the total field. When you look at the AM Championship, the first place AM driver gets maximum amount of points, the second place AM driver, and so on and so forth, and down the list. So he is currently sitting in 6th place, and that will net him 25 points in that championship, and he will still maintain the championship if he finishes here.
All right, so as things sit, he is still solidly where he needs to be, and if we're honest, based on the DNFs we've had today, I don't think Tyler Gore can lose enough places from here on out to throw away the championship. We've got Hotham and Colander behind him. That's 19th and 20th, and then one more car running, Neil Alexander, who has taken his repairs and has returned to the track. So that's only 3 more spots that Gore can find himself demoted. We'll try and figure what that means in terms of this championship hunt. Honestly, the reason we're focusing on that is because there's a lot more realistic chance of that changing than Greg Sykes giving away the championship right now. He still runs in first, and he needs to lose at least 8 spots for him to at least even give a chance to Verity mathematically to win it all.
Yeah, exactly. And just a quick follow-up with that.
Ooh, Takeshi Kita is stopped on track at a turn 5. Oh no, it doesn't look good. Did he avoid the barrier here? I don't think he did. Let's watch the replay.
So this is that tricky turn 5. Got the power down a little bit early. Oh, hard hit into the wall, tearing off his front wing. Yeah, it looked like that car was starting to spin as he exited the apex of the corner. And the way that corner is set up, that just comes from not having that patience, not really letting that car coast long enough through the corner, and that'll just spin it right around.
Like a record, baby, unfortunately. Well, we're going to check on our leader in the AM fight, and that is Brett Accord. Now, he's not fighting for the championship. He's way down in 7th, too far back to be able to earn enough points to overtake it, but he's looking at a victory, and I'm sure that'll feel good for the 151. In fact, he could overtake 9th overall. That'll just basically be a nice ego boost.
He certainly could. Driving a very, very good race here. A top 10 for any of these AM drivers is always good. He's currently trying to chase down Owen McLaughlin there right ahead of him. He's only about 0.6 of a second back.
And sad news for fans of Takeshi Kita. He has had to retire because of that incident. He is the next car out, which would promote Tyler Gordon out to 17th, another position for him. We'll only have 20 cars left running. Here's Gore on screen right now, down the backstretch. It's right on the roll hoop and watch what he's doing.
All right, now we're going to update on that championship with Takeshi Kita being out of it. Adam Wright currently is ahead of Tyler Gore on screen. If they finish the way they are, Adam Wright would lose the championship to Tyler Gore by a single point. So Gore has got to keep on going where he's going. Wright needs to try to get up 2 positions ahead because the car directly ahead of him is Aaron Roofs. That's a pro driver. Moving up over that car is not going to help him. He's got to get nearly 6 seconds up the road to try to overtake Don Bowden to win the championship.
Interesting. So, the plot thickens, and we'll try and keep you abreast of how that all develops as this race goes on. 10 minutes left to go at this point. And wow, Verity has been yo-yoing back and forth. I glanced over a bit ago. It was 1.3 seconds. The 04 has got it down to 7/10, almost 6/10 now between himself and his teammate. Not sure what's going on with them.
I'll be honest, Joe, it just seems like each of these drivers kind of keying in on separate laps here. It's just absolutely crazy. Here comes Verity. He's got it under half a second at this point as they dive into turn 6 and out of 7. The exit here is going to be crucial. Carries a little bit more speed around the apexes. If he's able to get the power on correctly here, it looks like he is. He's going to be able to draw even closer.
Not sure that slipstream is going to allow him to get side by side, but it will at least gain him a little time. You can see them coming down the backstretch, which isn't totally straight. It kind of weaves back and forth, and then it plunges steeply down into that last chicane. Indeed, he got it down to 0.5 of a second from 0.6 with that nice draft. And they're going to come across to start lap 29. They've also lost a little bit of time to Dave Menino. It was up to 4.5 seconds to the third place car. It's gone down to 3.8. Oh, okay, so wonder if Menino is turning it up or if he's found some pace here towards the end.
Yeah, certainly looks like Dave Menino. There you can see on your screen that last lap was 1:14.8 compared to Verity's 1:15.1. So Menino's got some speed here, really starting to put the power on. He has now got this under 4 seconds. It's down to 3.8.
Here's what's fascinating about that. His last 2 laps were 14.8s. So Menino is now on a charge, turning up the wick. Maybe he finally feels confident in what the car can do. Hopefully his internet holds out as he has a little flash on our screen with that going out on him briefly. But he's back now, and he's down to 3.7 seconds up to the top spots.
He's continuing that charge the best he can. What terrifies me now, if I'm either one of these leaders, is there you see Verity continuing to pull in on Greg Seitz, is if he is this quick as is, Menino may be able to take advantage of a mega draft if he's able to pull up behind him.
15.4 from Greg that time, 15.2 from Verity. Menino, 15.2. Okay, the pace went back a little bit closer to what we see from the top 2, so he's not chopping away as much time that time by. We had a pass for position. Brett Accord gets another one past Owen McLaughlin, one of our pro drivers.
Really, really good stuff there for Brett. He is now up to 8th place, so kudos to him. Continuing to watch this battle for the lead, though, it looks like that Seitz was able to pull a little bit of an advantage there out of turn 5, getting that gap back up to about 6.5 of a second over Stephen Verity.
Still, those 6/10 we've seen it multiple times out here today. That just doesn't look like that's good enough to get you a chance to attack into that critical last chicane. And once again, he's going to have to sit in line, wait patiently as his more successful teammate racks up more victories and more championships. So coming through turn 12 here, Greg Seitz leads lap 31 now. 7 minutes left to go on the clock, and looking like he's very much calm and in control of this race.
He is, but he cannot take a breath easy, specifically through that 2-3 complex. I can't tell you the number of times that I have seen guys start to relax a little bit only to be caught out. But there, wow, look at that gap starting to grow a little bit. He just put 2/10 on Verity in that sequence right there.
Yeah, big bump coming over that curb out of turn 5 as well. But didn't hurt him too badly. In fact, it seems to have helped him. It's up to 9/10 of a second. So he's pulling a gap on Steven at this point. I'm sure he'd love to try and break that slipstream so he has to no longer worry about him regaining all the way down this backstretch.
Well, he's certainly on his way. He's got that gap back over a second here as Verity will start to close in a little bit. Joe, just looking at all of this, it seems like Verity is really strong through the second half of the lap, and Seitz just has the measure of him through the first half. So a little bit of give and take here going on between teammates.
1.3 seconds once again. Much slower lap for Steven, a 15.2. Take that back. Honestly, more like a much quicker lap for Greg Seitz, 14.5 for him as he's picked up the pace. In fact, he was quite close to his fastest lap of the race. I've been keeping half an eye on Accord. Now that he's gotten past McLaughlin, Owen doesn't really want to let him keep that. He's been threatening, and he's been within 2 or 3 car lengths for much of the lap for the past 3 laps here.
And not helped on that last lap. Brett Accord had a little bit of a sloppy exit coming out of that turn 10 complex. Got a little bit twitchy. There you see Owen letting the car travel a little bit more. He's using more of the track, yes, so he's going to have farther distance to go, but he's keeping his speeds up. Looks like Brett Accord, though, got a lightning bolt out of turn 3. He's going to be able to pull away through the S's.
Yeah, no challenge through here. And up and over turn 5. Neither of them quite as greedy as what we've seen from some of the leaders, looking to play it a little bit more safe up and over the exit curb. Temperatures have not gotten a whole lot hotter since we last looked. They're still at 80 Fahrenheit, so even though it is hotter than when they had practice, it seems to have maybe stalled out a little bit.
Yeah, it's just past about 11:10 here in virtual standard time, so sun's starting to sort of equalize across the track here, ticking down under 5 minutes to go. Look there, just trying to play a little psychological warfare there, I think, is McLaughlin.
Will it work? Will he manage to shake the 151 off the track? He's already got him a little bit defensive there coming through the final corner. I'm not sure if that'll compromise his speed, but whatever in the case, it looks like McLaughlin gained down the front stretch, reeling him in. Up and into turn 3, stalking him through every corner. We were riding on the gearbox cam of Brett Accord currently. Going through the S's and then back up the hill, up and over turn 5, taking the bump of the exit curb nicely. Neither of them spinning it out. We're, by the way, also down to 16 drivers left on the lead lap. Many of them have been lapped around here since it is such a short circuit around this venue.
Yeah, it's really a deceptively short circuit, Joe. We normally don't think of Road Atlanta as one of the shorter circuits on the calendar, but it is. But here, we continue to watch McLaughlin. He's got a good toe behind Accord here. Think he may try something, pokes his nose out to the inside, and here he comes. He's going to have to be very late on the brakes. No, he's going to tuck back in the line.
All right, so McLaughlin didn't feel confident about it that time, but he's now twice in a row showed his nose a little bit. Seeing if he could get into the head of Brett Accord down the front stretch. Could always try and pull a fast one on him. Use something like this, like a good run, and maybe attack into turn 3 if he's really brave. Not brave this time, but he certainly looks so much quicker through that corner.
He very much does, but then again, we've seen this happen with the leaders, with here all over the place. It's just so hard to keep very close behind through the S's and up through turn 5. Does a relatively good job, though.
Those leaders are now getting 2 to go as they cross the line. Verity's got it within half a second once again. Considering that Seitz pretty much has the championship wrapped up here, as long as he finishes, I suspect that both he and Verity are throwing caution out the window.
I think that's right, but Joe, on the previous lap, Seitz did a 16.
Oh, it was lap traffic. That's Barry Cochran, and that's going to get into him. He holds on to it. It looks like Seitz is okay. I know Verity made some big contact, and now Dave Menino is into the mix. In fact, he gets a good run off of 5, but he has to check up trying to stay off of Verity.
Oh my goodness, lap traffic causing mega problems through the S's. Okay, here comes Menino. He's got to stick right behind Verity. Verity a little bit slower there through turn 6. Now into 7. This is all down to Menino. Joe, I've got to think these Rust Racing drivers have a little bit of damage after that contact.
Certainly, this opens the door for Dave, and he looks way faster in a straight line. Verity is limping. What about Greg Seitz? From here to the end, they're going to get the white flag this time by. It's a now or never thing for the number 3 car.
And there you see him moving ahead into line, gets it down through turn 10, nice and easy. He is under a second to the leader, Greg Seitz. Dave Menino here, stalking him down. He's already got a gap of about a half a second back to Stephen Verity.
What's wild is we just talked about this before the race when we were off air, that one of the things that cost a victory to Greg Seitz early in the season was lap traffic. And I said, if he comes across it here, that could cost him. Now, he's still got the lead, so it looks like it's handling well enough. But will he be able to take a victory? Menino now behind him, only half a second back.
All right, the power out of turn 5. That's going to be a crucial key to see here. He keeps it at about half a second. All right, he's got to keep his speed up. 4th gear through turn 6. Keep it on. Now wind it up for turn 7 and blast down the straight. This is where the draft comes into play. Can Menino pull this off?
Oh, it's going to be a big question mark. Dave's got the slipstream. Does he have better top speed? Seitz did take quite a hit there. As they pick up speed, the 74 sees it come down to about 0.4 of a second. Down into the braking. He could be safe from here on out as long as he's smooth on the power. Greg Seitz looking for win number 7 and his 6th in a row on the season, and he's going to do it as he claims the championship here at Road Atlanta.
An amazing 2-lap recovery there. Dave Menino crossing the line in 2nd with Stephen Verity crossing over in 3rd. Julio Palacio now coming across the last corners to take 4th place.
And we got to go to Brett Accord because he's being attacked by Owen McLaughlin. This is for 9th position down into the chicane. Takes the long way around. He could find himself with the up and under with Brett Accord. Oh no, he can't get the momentum up. And then he gets it after. Is that McLaughlin out of fuel? No, he spun his tires. And that cost him. Let's look at it one more time just to double check. We'll ride on board. It was a valiant effort into the turn.
And there you see spinning of the tires and losing it. And then, right as it crested over the hill, that's what it was. He just took the wrong line off there, and that caused those rear tires to just spin up.
Wow. As we watch the rest of that replay, the last of our finishers are coming across the line. So let's head to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. We just watched the season finale for the PRL Indy Pro 2000 Series, and Greg Seitz not only took the win, but he took another championship over his teammate, but it wasn't his teammate who finished behind him. A little bit of drama at the end with a lapped car separated them as Menino nearly snatched it on the final 2 laps. He finished second after running third for a majority of the event. Then it was Verity who wound up in third, still winless all season long, but he took second in the points. Julio Palacio was P4 and Alex Gayon was in fifth, both of them finishing where they started. Frank Nguyen had a bit of a spin at the end himself and wound up having to settle for 6th after falling from the front row. Not his best track, it appears. Michael Broomhead was 7th and Olivier Legault in 8th. Brett Accord, what a run from him. It's too bad he wasn't involved in that AM championship because he went from 15th to 9th and was our top finisher in that AM fight. Owen McLaughlin rounded out the top 10.
Coming home in 11th was Sean Duhamel, followed by Don Bowden. Aaron Roofs came home 13th, followed by Adam Wright in 14th. And 15th was Donald Olson, followed by Barry Cochran. And Tyler Gore's 17th place, along with the bonus point for 3 incidents or less, nets him the AM championship by our calculations by 2 points. So congratulations to Tyler Gore on that. Behind him in 18th was Brian Hotham. Nicholas Collender was behind him in 19th. And rounding out your top 20 was Neil Alexander.
Sadly for the remaining drivers, they were all DNFs, didn't get to see the checkered flag today, but the man who saw the checkered flag first was Greg Seitz and sealed another championship up with it. Greg, congratulations. You had to fight for this one. It came down to the last round, but in the end, you are our champion for season 1.
Yeah, thank you. The end of the race was pretty not great.
Did you have flashbacks to VIR when that one happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I saw him rejoining, and I'm like, please don't cut across the track, and he did, and I slowed, and Steven had to slow even more, and Steven got into the back of me, and then yeah, it was just a mess. So it's not a great way to finish the race, but we'll put that behind us, and super happy for the results and and the team championship as well. Part of our plan today was try to stay together and get that one too, but that was kind of taken at the end there.
Absolutely. Now, before that incident at the end, though, it looked like Steven definitely was keeping you honest. He stayed within about a second to a second and a half for the majority of the race. I mean, were you two pretty much about even on pace, or do you think if you could have shook him from the draft, you would have been able to get rid of him?
Yeah, I think, well, honestly, a lot of it was just team strategy to try to actually give him my toe. We wanted to make sure that we could stay on top in the team championship. So this race kind of was a dual purpose, to get our 1-2 in the overall championship, and then to secure the team championship, because the team championship was much closer. So yeah, we actually almost in some ways focused on that. So a lot of that was just, working with the team championship in mind.
Interesting. Well, that certainly changes our perspective on what was happening throughout the race. Congratulations on a 7th win of the season, as well as a championship crown. Feel free to thank anybody you'd like who helped make that happen.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank my entire Rust team, especially Steven this year. Steven and I, kind of did it alone, and in the past we've had a couple other teammates, and yeah, so it's been great, working with Steven, and Steven's been super consistent, which is what we needed this season. So that was wonderful. And then I want to give a big shout out to my wife. She's been kind of sick lately, and so this one's for her.
It's a wonderful touch there from Greg Seitz, our winner and newly crowned champion, who finished just ahead of Dave Menino. Thankfully for DJ, Dave actually is here, man.
Dave, I want to get to the sort of crazy last couple of laps of that race here in a second, but first I got to start you out by saying, mega start, man. You looked like you were just carving your way through the field.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, unfortunately, I kind of botched qualifying a bit, but yeah, I knew once I saw that Seitz and Verity were 1-2 going into the first corner, I knew that the only chance was for me to be super aggressive to try and get through the field. Obviously it didn't really work out for me catching them, but I guess it worked out in the end once they got held up.
Well, speaking of that getting holed up, talk me through about that last couple of laps. Obviously, Steven and Greg running into a little bit of problems with lap traffic, a little bit of contact. 2 or 3 laps to go, you find yourself directly behind Steven Verity. You get the pass done, and you're trying to charge down Greg Seitz for the win.
Yeah, I knew at that point, I mean, I had really nothing to lose, so I was just going to push as hard as I could, and I wasn't quite close enough to Greg at the end of the straight in order to make a dive. But, yeah, I mean, luckily I was able to at least get ahead of Steven for a pretty solid P2.
It was a fantastic end to the race and a good end to the season. And so I have to ask you, looking forward, can we see you back in SRT colors for season 2 this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Me, Julio, and JR are coming back for season 2. First of all, I want to say too, congrats to Greg and Steven. Greg for the drivers' championship, and both of those guys for the team's championship. It was a lot of fun battling them all year. But yeah, I mean, I know they're coming back. I know we're coming back. I know there's a few good, talented drivers joining next season too. So it should be a lot of fun.
Well, I can tell you we are looking forward to it, Dave. And anybody you'd like to thank on your way out?
Yeah, we'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting all season, and we'd like to thank the SRT guys and everyone who organizes this league. This has been a blast to race all season, and really looking forward to next season.
Thank you very much. That was your second place driver, Dave Medino, and now Joe Peak has caught up with your third place driver and second place in the championship, Steven Verity.
Indeed. And, well, Steve, Greg sucked some of the drama out of it after telling us that you guys were trying to work together to stay close and seal up that team's championship. But I do have one curious point that I'd like to explore. You didn't take tires from what we saw. What was the reasoning for that call?
That was a dumb call. I don't know, like all the races previously, it's been generally okay to run to the end without tires, but I wasn't thinking, especially with Greg ahead in the draft, like I for sure should have taken tires. And I was just chatting with Menino, before we hopped into the booth here, and yeah, he took tires, and I was just watching him close up on the relative, and yeah, I should have taken him. That was just I don't know, I wasn't thinking.
We heard Greg's perspective on the incident with the lapped car at the end. What are your thoughts on it, and how damaged was the car after that?
Car was damaged. The tires were already toast, and they were extremely toast after I locked up. I think ultimately we got lucky. Yeah, I think that type of stuff shouldn't happen, and it's happened a few times throughout the season. And I hope that, steps are taken to prevent that type of stuff from happening in the future, because that could have been the championship right there. Like Greg and I, came within inches of just completely losing out of the championship. So.
Well, speaking of that, obviously, Rust Racing comes home with the team's championship now. But what are your feelings knowing that, and yet you still didn't get a win? I hope I'm not rubbing salt in the wound, but I imagine that's probably one that you kind of wish you could have checked off.
I mean, yeah, but I'm a bit more of like I don't know. I'm a bit of an optimizer, like I care much more about finishing P2 in the championship than I do about having a win. And it's really just a mirror of like my iRacing career in general is that I have like way more second places than I do wins, and I manage to do well because I try to be consistent and I try to, not take stupid risks. I'm a little bit more cerebral about it, I would say. So it doesn't really bother me.
I'm glad that you can see the glass half full. And I tell you what, not many drivers can keep getting podium after podium. So that's sure something still to be proud of. Congratulations. And again, feel free to thank whoever helped make this one possible.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, I have to give a huge thanks to Greg. None of this is possible without him. Everyone at Rust Racing, for sure. Thank you to you all for your broadcasts. Shout out to Dave Menino for being an amazing competitor all year. Really enjoyed going up against him. And it was an enjoyable season. I'm hoping the next one's a little bit less stressful, but we'll see.
I'm sure they're always going to be at least a little bit stressful. But that was Stephen Verity, who took third today and wound up second in the championship and first in the team's championship here today for season 1. As we close out, we have to thank our sponsors for the series, starting with Simulation MotorSports Affinity. If you want to check them out and have them help you get involved in the world of sim racing, they are at SIMMSA.net. And the longtime sponsor here of the Thursday series in the PRL, NinjaTrader. Their website is simply NinjaTrader.com. And of course, for all of your sim rig needs, there's Butt Kicker Products, and their website is thebuttkicker.com. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See her Bandcamp listed there at the bottom if you want to find more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race, when we come back to start next season, will be Thursday, March 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern, so don't miss that one. And we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.